Oh my gosh. Hi everyone. It's Kanesha Taught You. Some of you guys may know me by that name. Some of you may not know me at all. But I wanted to come back with a life update. Not only because I miss doing YouTube so much, but last summer, back in 2024, I took a job at Chick-fil-A, and it wasn't in Chicago. I traveled really far for this job and I got it, and I was so excited. I was happy, but it turned out to be one of the worst jobs I've ever worked in my life, and I would love to tell you guys all about it. Just please make sure you like and subscribe and keep watching. The first person I want to talk about is Jared. This guy was a psychopath, okay? I'm not even joking. But let me tell you about the first time I met him. So I went into orientation and I'm sitting down and there's another gentleman there as well. He goes up to him, introduces himself, offers him something to eat or drink. He doesn't offer me anything to drink or eat, or he doesn't introduce himself, which is completely fine with me. I'm just there for the money. But when he sees Chelsea comes out and she's talking to me and taking like documents and information from me, then he comes over to me and he's like, "Oh, I'm sitting over here talking to so-and-so. I haven't even introduced myself. I'm Jared. Can I get you something to eat or drink?" But all that ungenuine generosity kind of made me lose my appetite. So I politely declined. And a few days later, I remember I was at my register, right? He comes up to my register and I greet him. I say, "Hey, what can I get for you?" And he points at me and he says loud, "She said, hey, she doesn't talk to me unless she needs something." And people giggled. I was a little confused because I didn't understand why I needed to talk to him about anything other than work, considering the fact that he had a wife, 3 kids, plus a newborn that he had just had. And of course, I've noticed that he was very passive aggressive, and I had to report him shortly after this for being rude. Jerry kept scheduling me to get out of work at 11 o'clock at night. Anybody that knows me knows that's too late because I do have a daughter to look after. So I just want you guys to know, before we went in the office and had this conversation, I walked in on him in the back because there's like this mirror set up like towards the back by the office. And I walked in on him pulling his face down, making the bottom of his eyeballs show. And he really scared me. And he goes, "Oh, sorry, come on in." And when I go in the office, he's cutting me off. He's not letting me get a word in. He's telling me that he can't help me. So I reported him to Chelsea's husband for being rude. And then I found a loophole in getting earlier shifts. I would switch with other coworkers. And then Jared started to make it impossible for me to do that. And that's when I realized he was becoming controlling. So I would talk to other coworkers about this. And a very nice sister, I'm calling her sister because I don't want to say her name because I don't know if she still works there, but she told me there's no reason for him to care so much about what you're doing with your personal life to the point where he's preventing you from switching. He shouldn't care that much unless he has a thing for you. So, I'm listening to her and I go back to my baby's father and I tell him, I think this guy is harassing me. And he tells me, all he told me was that I was just a bed wench. I just wanted every white man to want me. All he did was degrade me. And I personally think Denzel was just mad because I had cut all access off to me because, he wasn't, deserving me. So I cut off all access. So he degrades me. So I really had nobody to go to in this instance. So I had no choice but to go to Chelsea. Again, she had a completely open door policy, which I love. She never turned me away. Anytime I needed to talk, Chelsea was there for me. Jared was giving me problems when it came to switching, and all I was trying to do was get out earlier so I can see my daughter. Now, when I told her this, I thought that she was gonna maybe pull Jared to the side, talk to him in the office. She confronted him right in front of me while I was wiping down tables so I can hear everything. And he's going back and forth with her saying, well, Kanesha needs to learn how to do this and she needs to learn how to do headset. That's why I'm having her close. And Chelsea was cutting him off the same way he was cutting me off in the office. See, he needed to remember he was just a supervisor. Give you guys more detail about Chelsea. She was an amazing manager, and I really hope she doesn't take any disrespect from this video because, like I said, I will always appreciate her for giving me that job opportunity. And she was always extremely fair, extremely sweet. She did let me taste everything off the menu for free when I first got the job, and that's why I was so happy. Like, I was able to eat everything. But I really need to tell this story. So back to what I was saying was Jared. So she's cutting him off the same way he was cutting me off, and after that, you know, we're working, and you know, he doesn't say anything to me, but I can tell that he's mad. And when I walked past him, it just felt like whenever I crossed paths with him, he wanted to strangle me. I'm really good at reading people's emotions, and that's what I got from him. And this is exactly around the time where the harassment started. And he would literally, like, soon as I would walk into work, he would come from the back and bust the door open to like come to the front, and he would just like find a reason to pick with me. It was like disgusting. The fact that he would do this almost consistently made me think that he was like watching me walk into work like on the camera, which was extremely creepy to me. But let me go into detail about the harassment, because this is what he would do. I would come into work, I would have like 5 or 6 minutes until I start, and he would come by me and he would be like, you're ordering food? And he would pick up his watch and say, you starting this many minutes? And I'd be like, yeah. Like, why else would I be standing in line if I'm not ordering food? And then he would just like go on, and he was like annoying to me. So I was like, all right, whatever. And then he says, no, go ahead. And that's when I realized, oh, so you're just fucking with me. He's just picking with me. He's harassing me. So then there was this other time I come into work, he butts down the door and comes and starts interrogating me, asking me, what am I eating for lunch today? Because I was ordering food. And I told him, I don't know, because that wasn't really any of his business. And then he goes and off on a tangent and started telling me how I can't eat 2 employee meals. Well, I don't know why he told me this, because I did that all last week. He's pretty late, and it's not like you can get them back. But yeah, and then there was this one time I was drinking tea out of a Chick-fil-A coffee cup, and he comes up to me and he tells me that I gotta pay for the fucking cup. And I'm like, oh, this is bullshit. So I go to Jansen. Jansen is Chelsea's sister. She was also a total sweetheart to me. And she tells me, yeah, that's fine. You can have the cup. You don't have to pay for it. So I was walking around with the cup, and he was looking at me, and I knew he was mad. This one time, it was this group of girls that came in. They're taking selfies. They're having a good time at Chick-fil-A. I greeted them. They was like, oh, hey. They obviously was not ready to order any food yet. And then Jared comes, his big prick self here, and he comes by me and he's like, can you take their order, please? And I'm like, well, they weren't ready yet. And he yells at them very loudly. He says, can you guys step up, please? So they step up. And then he says to me, actually, they were ready. And I told him, actually, they weren't ready. You weren't even right here when I greeted them. And then he just walked away. But I didn't really appreciate him trying to embarrass me in front of that group of girls. It's not like I knew them. And they just minded their business and ordered their food afterwards, which I really appreciate them not like butting into our conversation or taking his side just because he was like, you know, one of them. But yeah, I felt like he was trying to embarrass me in front of those chicks talking to me, like talking down to me. And I had to defend myself against this man several times. And there was one time where they really got to me. You guys about was this chick named Giana. She was a gaslighter and she was Latina, so of course she hates black people. Not saying all Latinas hate black people, but you guys know. In Chicago, they racist than a bitch. But anyway, yeah, Giana, she set me up, so she knew that there was like all the dickheads back there, and she tells me, Kanesha, can you go grab ice? And you know, knowing me, and I'm like, oh yeah, sure. So I go back there and I grab the ice bucket and I put it on my foot like I was trained to, and I have 3 non-black people in my face telling me, no, no, no. So I'm like, okay, my blood pressure is rising because at the end of the day, it's 3 on 1. And they say, oh, you're not supposed to put it on your foot. No one has told me this. I was trained to put the ice bucket on my foot. So I'm like, all right, you guys. And I just feel one person still looking at me, and it's this white woman named Christian. And I suspect Christian, however you say her name, of being a white supremacist because of several reasons. She doesn't talk to anyone. You know, none of the coworkers knew her name. All she did was just walk around with her clipboard. And I postured up because, you know, I was slumped down because I was like grabbing ice. But when I seen that Christian was still like staring at me, looking down on me, I didn't like the way it felt. So I postured up and I raised my voice and I asked her, do you want me to dump this out or what? In other words, get the hell out of my face. And she knew that's exactly what I was saying. So she didn't say anything. Her face said it all. So the next day, I'm in a break room eating, and she comes back there with her clipboard, pretending to do some work. I'm packing my shit up because I don't like the bitch. And she says, oh, what time you start? I'm like, 12. And she's like, oh, okay. And I walk away, you know, cutting the conversation short. And she says, have fun out there really fast. But at the moment, I didn't really hear her. So I went back and I said, what you just say to me? And she got quiet for a minute. And she was thinking, and I'm glad she did think about what she was going to say next because I wasn't. And she said, I'm just saying have fun out there. And I was like, oh, okay. And I went back up there, and what she said still didn't make sense to me because how can I have fun up there when it's people like you up there, which goes back to me talking about this person, Giana. To go into more detail about Giana, like I said, she is Latino, so you know she hates blacks. And she will always ask me to clean a men's room. Of course, I never did. I gave her pushback immediately, to the point when she stopped asking me to do it because I had already went to the higher-ups, you know, Chelsea and Jansen, and told them that I was completely uncomfortable with her request. So they told me I didn't have to do it. So anytime she asked me, I would just like basically ignore her. And she would be like, did you even touch the men's room? And I'd be like, no, you can talk to Chelsea about that. But anyway, so she would also put me in a dining room, isolating me away from all my other coworkers. And she would tell me like, can you go back to dining room anytime I came up, you know, front to like socialize with any of the coworkers. So I told her no. And she said, excuse me? And I said, no. And she said, let's take it back here. And I said, yeah, let's take it back here. So we go back to, you know, towards the office. And she like, so what's the problem? Like, she didn't just hear me. And I told her, why am I always in a dining room? You've had me in here for 3 days. And she's gaslighting me, of course, saying, oh, I barely even work with you. So I tell her, when I do work with you, I'm in the dining room. And she gets to looking around. She's stumbling over her words like an idiot, saying, like 3 times. So I asked her, is this something personal with you, Giana? And she goes, no, it's nothing personal, Kanesha. And started smiling like a psychopath. So I say, okay. So I go back there and I report her to Jansen. And when I went back up front, I refused to go back up to the dining room. And she sent me home. She's like, oh, you can go home, Kanesha. And I'm like, okay, that's fine with me, because I had already put in my 2 weeks anyway. And with the way she was acting, that was definitely my last day. And when I went to go grab my coat and stuff, I seen that she was coming out the office and she had like a shitty look on her face. It's because she had got checked by Jansen. And I just smiled at her because it was so good to just see her, you know, squirm. I know this was longer than any video I've probably ever done. And I hope this doesn't discourage any of my young people. If you guys want to work at Chick-fil-A, you just have to know when someone is manipulating you, or when someone is gaslighting you or trying you, or any of that stuff. And there's also so much other stuff I would like to talk about, you know, with Donald Trump being president and Elon Musk. You know, I want to talk about everything. You guys just let me know down in the comments. I missed you guys a lot, and I'm looking forward to having more talks with you guys. If you guys want to support, all the links will be in the comments down below. And peace, love, and Black power. It feels so good to say that again.